Welcome to the Effective Podcast, where we say fuck average and be legendary. On this series, we will be interviewing our athletes who have completed amazing feats of athleticism, from bodybuilding to crazy challenges, marathons, high rocks events, you name it. We'll be talking to them, and in this, we're going to get into their heads and find out what makes them tick. On today's show, we interview Mike Humphreys, hybrid athlete, come all-rounder, and fundraiser as well. He's hell-bent on completing some of the craziest fitness challenges known to man, and having just completed 30 marathons in 30 days in 30 different countries, all whilst raising money for Motor Neurone Disease. So without further ado, let's jump into the interview. Right then, Mike, welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
Pleasure to have you, mate. So, obviously, the last time that you were in this room with myself, it was back in September.
That's right, yeah.
And it was just before you embarked on your journey for 30 marathons in 30 days in 30 different countries. And obviously, we were going back and forth with like the setup, the logistics of it, the plan, why you were doing it, everything, and how you were going to tackle it, really. So obviously now you've done it, you achieved it. It's obviously we're probably a little late to the party with it, but we've got you in the office now, so let's talk. Let's talk about it. Yeah. So first of all, well done.
Yeah, thank you very much.
An amazing feat. So you finished in Hull, on home soil. How did it feel to finish that last one?
Yeah, do you know what? Looking back now, when I announced it to you, I don't think I realised how crazy the challenge was. I didn't realise how many hurdles and obstacles would be thrown at me when I announced it. And I knew it was a crazy challenge, but I didn't think it would be as impossible as it was. So look, now I've had time for it to sink in. It's kind of a miracle that it did happen.
Definitely. I mean, when you were telling us about it, well, before you even came into the office, when we got the message to say, "Oh, guys, I'm doing this," blah blah blah, we were like, "What? Is this guy mad?"
Yeah.
The logistics, the recovery standpoint, like nuts.
Yeah.
And then obviously you had a certain plan in place, and we'll get onto it later. But obviously there's plenty of hurdles and little hiccups along the way, weren't they? So even without anticipating those, it was a challenge to begin with, wasn't it? So,
but I'm like, going back to your question, to finish in Hull on that last marathon was extra special. Just being the home city, and it allowed everyone to get on board and join me. My friend Luke had actually set up the route for the last marathon, so people could join at a half marathon mark, a 10k, a 5k, or a 1k, and we even had some people starting and doing the full marathon with me, which was just really, really special. And then finishing at the MKM Stadium with the victory lap, and I presented the match ball to both sides. So it was Hull City versus Portsmouth. Nice. Just a really nice touch, yeah.
How many crossed the line with you then?
So at the finish line, there must have been 100 people.
Wow.
Yeah.
Quite the turnout then.
Yeah, it was really special. And including them people was some people I'd never met in my life, and they'd just found me on Instagram, seen the journey and started watching the videos. And we had people from Oxford, up in Newcastle, come all the way from down south, Somerset.
Wow.
And these were people, some of them I'd never met before, and they'd seen it online, and they wanted to just get involved. And there was a few where, because I was doing this for M&D, as a lot of you know, Motor Neurone Disease, the disease with no cure. There was a lot of people with friends and family suffering with M&D who decided they wanted to join and come and run as well. So that was nice.
Definitely. Yeah. Whilst we're talking about M&D, got a figure of what you raised?
So we've hit £30,000. Wow. Which is really special. I think I told you in the first podcast that it was £10,000 target, right?
10's in my head.
Yeah, so I think after that announcement, and then moving on, we was pushing 10,000. And then as soon as we hit the first marathon, it just snowballed. And I set a new target of 20,000, and then I've set a new one of 30, and then we've just smashed that. So it's been amazing.
I mean, the challenge itself definitely did its job.
Yeah, yeah.
Like you say, you kind of didn't really anticipate what you'd kind of signed yourself up to, properly throwing yourself in at the deep end.
Yeah.
Looking back now,
Yeah.
knowing what you encountered, do you think you'd have still gone ahead with it? Like knowing, right, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to do this on like the one country where you couldn't get into on a certain day, so you had to go to a different country and then come back to it. Had you known all that, would you have thought, yeah, I'm still going to go try and do this? Or would you have thought,
Do you know what? I'm a big believer of taking opportunities, and I had this opportunity. I had sponsors behind it, and I had a 4-week window, and I've just broken my hand 2 weeks prior to that Ironman, right?
Yeah.
So this was after the back of the Ironman, and I had a broken hand. So for 4 weeks with a broken hand, I thought, I can do this running. So even with everything in place, I think, look, take opportunities, and is something I shout from the hills. So yeah, I would have done it, but it was huge. It was a huge task,
massively.
and there was a lot more ups and downs than I expected. I knew it would be absolutely outrageously tough, but I never realised like the lows I'd get as well.
Yeah. So when you talk about lows, do you mean from a doubt standpoint? Anything else like loneliness? Because I know obviously for that duration of that challenge, you were on your own. It wasn't the original plan, but
that's right.
You did end up completing it solo. So.
Yeah. So the lows come both from mentally and physically, and it was the doubt of not knowing if I'd be able to do it. So I never doubted my mindset. I always knew I'd be turning up every day to the marathon.
Yeah.
And as a funny, I'll tell you going into this a bit later on, but I just doubted that my body would be able to survive the 30 days, even after probably 3 or 4 marathons. And that's when it got tough.
10% of the way in, you're already thinking.
I'm already. It got to a point where I thought my legs were just going to give up. Ankles were swollen. My Achilles tendon, they felt really brittle to a point where I thought something is just going to snap. And that's where the lows came from, just not knowing if I'd managed to do it. But going back to that, I never expected to be out there on my own.
No.
So obviously I drove out to... Well, going back to the start, I envisioned a support team, a driver, a camera crew, and a support girl or guy to hand me supplements along the way, aid stations. Because obviously, if you go and do a marathon, you've got aid stations along the way.
Yeah.
So you're picking up hydration, you've got fuel, everything's there handed to you. So I'd planned to have someone go around on a bike and they'd just keep me fueled, topped up, hydrated, and then I didn't have to worry about that. All I had to worry about is turning up and doing the marathons.
Yeah.
And what actually happened was the support team dropped out. I had no driver, and I was left alone at the start line, which, looking back, is kind of crazy to think that I had to start this full trip just alone, having to deal with it. So yeah, day one, it was just going into the unknown. How would I? We actually had to change the route. So luckily for me, I had my brother in the back scenes. No one saw him, but he was doing such a hard job. Going back to when he announced it, the 30 marathons, he actually spat his dummy out with me. I'll be honest. We had a bit of back and forth, and he actually told me to cancel it, and I was being selfish, and there was a bit of a friction between us.
Right.
But that stemmed because he helped me decide on this challenge.
Right.
He actually thought he was thinking up a challenge for next year.
Okay.
So he brainstormed with me 30 kilometres in 30 days, biking one day, running the next day, biking one day, running the next. And obviously I've just changed that to 30 marathons in 30 days. It sounds better and it's a lot crazier. And I've turned around and said, yep, we're doing it next month. Well, he was 4 weeks around, and And that's where he's had sleepless nights and turned to me and said, "This is ridiculous. You're being selfish. You've not trained. The family's stressed about you. You need to call it off." And then once he knew I was not calling it off, and then he really supported me. So yeah, going back to the start line, I actually took a camera guy out with me who decided once he got to Spain that it would not be for him to do this. And he decided to get a flight home, leaving me. I don't know what that says about my company, but he decided to leave once he got to Spain.
Yeah.
So that was another shock. So I already had the shock of the support team and driver leaving me before we set off.
Yeah.
To drive over 2 days to Barcelona and have the final team member drop out on me was a huge, it was just a huge shock. So I called home and just let them know and said, yeah, basically everyone's left me and I'm doing it alone. And they immediately just wanted me to go back. So let's go back to the drawing board. You've not trained for it. I did 2 weeks training for this.
Yeah, we discussed that last time. And when you said, like, I've done 2 weeks of training, so
yeah,
people train for longer than 2 weeks to do a single marathon, let alone 30 back-to-back days.
So obviously I'd done the Ironman,
yeah,
and previous to that I'd done a marathon. So I had a base fitness level which was probably above average, but specific training for this endurance event. If you look at anyone doing something this sort of magnitude, they'd be training for 6 months, high volume. Yeah. And I basically did 2 weeks of high volume training. That was it. And then I had a week off to taper down and rest the legs.
Yeah.
So yeah, back to the start line when I called my brother and said, look, I have no one with me now. We had to change the route so that after I finished the marathon, the drives weren't so long.
Yeah.
Because there was a danger of me being too tired to drive. Anything over 5 hours would start being a bit dangerous.
Definitely.
So we had to take out Switzerland and Liechtenstein and put them at the back.
Yeah.
And then this created the first 10 drives would be all under 5 hours. Or so I thought.
Yeah. So traffic
and
borders and whatnot into
that's
the equation.
Right, yeah. Roadworks at night. So, yeah, it become just a crazy task, but
it became one. It started as one. It became more of a crazy task.
Yeah.
So going back to, obviously you said like mindset. You knew going into it, mindset weren't going to be what failed you. What level of confidence must you have had in your mindset to even know that you were going to undertake this and go, yeah, I can do that? Do you think it was confidence, or do you think it
ignorance?
Was ignorance? Yeah.
Do you know what? It was a mixture of confidence and inspiration, I'd say.
Yeah.
Because my inspiration, Craig, diagnosed with M&D last year. It's such an awful disease. If he can battle M&D face on, I can face on any tough challenge, it's one of them where there was no way I was not going to get it done unless logistically I had a problem coming up or my legs physically wouldn't work. But there was no pain that would have stopped it. And that was the confidence I had in my mindset was there. But still, I never really knew how many ups and downs and how many hurdles would be thrown at me along the way.
It was, obviously we weren't able to follow along as well as we'd hoped, obviously due to like the cameraman issue and whatnot.
Yeah.
But what we could see was end of each day, you with your phone, day one, 30 marathons, 30 days, 30 countries, we're in such and such country, this is how it's going, and knowing that you're there filming yourself. So any form of footage that you could get, it was on your phone, and you were doing that yourself. You were getting yourself from country to country. You were then running the marathon solo with no support team, like you say. And then on top of that, you had the marathon to run.
Yeah.
That in itself makes the brain absolutely boggle.
Yeah.
So was there any point where you kind of clicked with that or resonated with that kind of mindset of, this is nuts?
It was, it just unfolded to a point where it become, this is what's happening, get on with it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how it was. It become, there was that many hurdles thrown at me. It was almost like, something's not going to go right today, but how we're going to deal with it.
Yeah.
And that's how it became. The big part of it was feeding myself. And this is why the supplements was such a crucial part of it, because I envisioned a support team, finish the marathon, load of carbs, high protein meal, all ready for me. I even bought a picnic table and chairs before we set off, because I just envisioned this table full of food, and I could just get as many calories as I wanted from good whole foods, and then would set off to the next place. And what actually happened was I was on my own, and after Barcelona Marathon, actually in Barcelona, I had 2 film crew from Spain.
Right.
The Spanish media had got a hold of the story from the BBC website.
Okay.
So I had 2 Spanish journalists following me around Barcelona, my full marathon. So they're chasing after me on a scooter, filming me. They'd go in front of me, stop, get off, snap a load of pictures, get back on the scooter, and that was a really surreal part of it, having like paparazzi on my first marathon. But after this, a few interviews after the marathon, I thought, why not? I'm trying to push the cause. I'm raising awareness for M&D, trying to get the donations, give the media a bit of time. But that pushed the time getting to Andorra then a bit further and further. So once I got to Andorra, done the marathon in Andorra, I had to feed myself and then get straight on the road to the south of France. I just had no time. There was no time. I had a stove, a load of gas and food, but I had no time to cook, and I was so exhausted. My second marathon was the first time I've ever run a back-to-back marathon. So I'd never ran 2 marathons in a row.
And 30.
And then I had another 28 after my second day. So yeah, getting back to feeding myself, it was literally a protein shake, cereal bars, a protein bar, and get in the van and drive. And that was a real struggle, trying to get the calories in. So supplements for me, having the protein bars was just a blessing. So I'm so happy I visited, and I had them stockpiled up on these, because without these supplements, who knows where the body would have been at. I relied heavily on the hydration through the marathons, the fuel to get the extra calories in, liquid calories as well, was a huge part, because through the marathons, you can't really eat solids.
No.
And carrying gels is all right, but just to have a shake of the fuel was really good, and it kept me
90 calories, 20 grams of carbs, straight in, no digestive issues.
Kept the energy up, all the time. So that was huge for me. And like I say, I was doing all the driving myself. So I'd be 2 hours in. I had no time to be stopping and trying to find food places. I'd just be having a couple of protein bars, which is crazy when you think of like how many marathons I had. I was almost living 80% off supplements.
Yeah, which if anything, it should be the other way around. It should be 20% supplements.
It should be supplementing the food, but it just shows you it will work if you're getting a high protein product, and it kept me from injury, I believe.
Not that we advise it.
No, it's not advisable, but it works. And I tell you what, these omega-3s, I'm not recommending any dosage, but I was doubling the dose of them because I was paranoid about my knees.
Joint.
We
know running as it is obviously joint impactful.
Yeah.
Let alone a marathon, and then let alone doing it back to back.
I was just going
30 days in a row.
top, so
knees. I have horrendous knees. I wouldn't even contemplate a run of longer than a kilometre, because I just know for a fact that at the end of it I'd be in bits. Let alone 26 miles. What is it?
26.2. Yeah.
And then doing it 30 days in a row.
And the funny thing is because I was so paranoid about being slightly under a marathon, some days I was doing 27 miles, just to make sure I got it. Because I thought, if this Garmin's playing up, I'll just make sure I was overdoing it. So I probably did an extra 30 miles over the marathons. Just
pointed 31.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh god. Yeah. So, like I say, you said obviously from a calorie standpoint, it was helpful to have the sups on hand. We touched on omegas for obviously joint support and whatnot. Hydration, as we know, as a population, we're heavily dehydrated.
Yeah, massively.
Just for general office life, let alone from an athletic or sporting background, just from your average Joe that isn't into fitness and whatnot, we are dehydrated. You then throw a marathon into the mix where you're going to be going through a lot of water. Your body's sweating out because obviously some of the climates that you were in were warm.
27 degrees in Albania.
And then running 20 odd miles.
Yeah.
Especially when you're not used to that temperature.
Yeah.
We don't get 27 degrees here much, do we? Hydration would be key.
Yeah.
Were you taking that in a morning, on a night, during, or is it just throughout?
I was probably overdosing on the... Well, I don't think you can in such an event, but... excuse me. I was taking it all the time.
Yeah.
So, wake up, first thing I did... Rehydrate. I chugged a protein shaker of the hydration. Probably a scoop extra. There was some days where I was living out in my van. So a lot of people don't realise I had to live out in my van. So I'd do a marathon, eat as much as I could, get in the van and drive. I'd then be sleeping, often roadside or in a service station car park, in the van. So going a few marathons in, Monaco, I was in an underground car park, 8 stories down. It was that busy. So I tried getting parts on the side of the road in Monaco, and it's so straight to the police. The police are patrolling. Pull up and said, what you parked here for? You can't park on the roads in Monaco. So I had to go and find underground car park, all absolutely rammed full of Ferraris, Lamborghinis, and then there's my white transit van. But they were all reserved for the residents, and I kept going down and down, reserved. More, I was going further down, and I thought, where am I going here? And then eventually, I must have been 8 floors down. And that's the only place I could get parked. It was so hot down there.
I was going to say the humidity as well. It'd been
honestly,
really stuffy.
It was like being in a sauna. And I was sleeping in my van in a multi-storey car park. So I was instantly wet through in sweat. So that day, I was having probably three shakes before I went to bed of hydration. And then again, I'd wake up, have a hydration. And then obviously I said I'd like to have someone handing me water and hydration along the way. I ended up having to buy a camel pack.
Right, yeah.
To save me going in shops whilst running marathons. I had a camel pack on my back or around my waist, and I filled the bladder with about 5 scoops of the hydration powder and the rest water. So that was a massive thing, especially in the hot climates, which was it was this really mild winter right across Europe.
Yeah.
So even in the south of France in October, it was still really, really warm. And then obviously I got to Albania, Montenegro, Serbia. It was like 27 degrees. It was a hot summer's weather, know. So that was crucial. Staying hydrated was crucial, and I was constantly mindful of looking after my body and making sure everything was topped up. I was hitting enough protein and stuff, but like I said, to get good meals in, it wasn't ideal. I was stopping off at services to fill up the van, and I'd be buying a cheap sandwich and a pan au chocolat and a croissant. And that's all in service stations across Europe tend to be junk food. It wasn't really high quality. The sandwiches, you wouldn't get a high protein sandwich. It'd just be like a cheese and tomato or that fake processed ham.
Yeah.
They love that in Italy and France, but to me, it's just not quality calories. But
no,
just had to get what you could. Yeah.
So, did you? I cannot remember. It's too long. I've slept since then. Obviously, when we went around the warehouse and obviously got you stocked up, I can't remember, did we get anything on the sleep side of things, like or Xylaria or like Mag Pro or anything like that?
We had the magnesium tablets. Is that Mag Pro?
Mag Pro, yeah.
Yeah, and then a Peak, the Peak formula, but I'm not sure what that. I just seen it was Peak. I didn't actually read that one.
Right.
But yeah, the magnesium and the vitamin D.
Yeah.
Which was, yeah. I was just trying to get as much in as I needed as possible, especially with it being winter, and the daylight leading up to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to be lacking vitamin D at all. Mindset as well. You need your mood levels high when you're trying to tackle something so tough.
Definitely.
Mentally. So,
definitely. Yeah. But so, obviously on the sleep side of things, you were sleeping in the van.
Yeah.
After completing a marathon, after eating what you can, after driving to a new country, how many hours were you averaging sleep on a night?
Probably like 4.5 hours.
General statistics states that you want 8.
Yeah.
And the percentage of people that can survive regularly on 6 is 0. So 4.5 hours to then go into a marathon.
Yeah.
It's not a lot. Do you feel anywhere recovered from the previous day?
Yeah, it was crazy, really, because I thought I'd planned 6 to 8 hours, obviously.
Yeah.
But for instance, where it starts going wrong is because I ain't got a driver, I can't get dropped off at the marathon and then picked up after the marathon. I'm having to find a parking space.
Yeah.
So when I did the marathon in Vatican City, the world's smallest country, it's in Rome. And Rome is absolutely chock-a-block. It's so busy in Rome. Could not get parked for about 2.5 hours. I'm just circling round. I've got scooters all dipping in and out of me. It was chaos. I was getting so stressed because the time is ticking. And if you don't get the marathon in that day, well, good luck getting 2 marathons the next day and then having to do another 26 marathons after that. So trying to get parts, the delay of that pushed on the marathon times. So every day the marathons are getting later and later and later to a point where the next one in San Marino in the mountains, I didn't get finished till like 9:30.
Right.
So by the time I'd had my protein shake, a few snacks, got back in the van, it was 10 o'clock and I had 6.5 hour drive to Slovenia.
That's getting you there at 4-5 a.m.
Exactly. And that was the reality. It was just impossible to get enough sleep. So what happened is I'd just go on the road, do as much as I could. As soon as I start feeling tired, I pull over a service station. So I probably drove for about 4 hours. Yeah, probably 2:30 in the morning.
Right.
Sleep for 4 hours in the service station, and then drive another 3 hours to Slovenia. And then, that knock-on effect is constantly going.
Playing catch up with yourself.
And then, you're trying to catch up. There were certain points where I'd have to try and get a few hours back so I could start earlier. And eventually, after the trip through Europe, the last 5 marathons in UK, I had to meet the time for the ferry.
Yeah, of course.
Rotterdam.
Yeah.
So I had to pull back the times to get to Rotterdam in time. I was always trying to claw the time back, but it was harder than I'd thought because I had to drive, and that was the reality, driving myself. So I was on my own for the first 10 days, first 10 marathons, but I was really lucky to have a friend who lives in Slovenia.
Okay.
So after the worst marathon of the entire lot was San Marino, and that was a marathon basically on a hill, basically running on a mountain, up and down. I could not find any flat at all, and it was that tough. My legs were that just totally battered. I actually ran the last 2 miles in a car park because I couldn't bear any more hills.
Running circles.
Just because going down the hills was killing my knees.
Yeah.
And running up was just killing my everything.
Back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was physically exhausting me. to a point where once I'd finished, I actually got followed by a local guy who was like, "What's wrong? Have you been in an accident? Has someone attacked you? Are you all right?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm totally fine." I was limping that bad. I could hardly walk. And I was like, "Yeah, I'm all right. I've just ran a marathon. And I've got another 23 to do. I've got to drive to Slovenia, so I'll see you later." Yeah. So I forgot where I was going with that. But was the driving, right? So the knock-on effects of that was, you were into the middle of the night sometimes on the marathons. Oh, no, sorry. I was getting back to Slovenia, my friend in Slovenia. So all this had been done with only a bottle of water for a shower. So I had a big 5-litre bottle of water above my head. That was my shower for 7 days. And then luckily, because I'd started doing these videos on Instagram, my friend from school, who I'd not seen 15 years, reached out and said, "I live in Slovenia. Come and stay with me. We'll put you up for the night." And it was the best feeling ever, because I just ran the toughest marathon of the lot, and I was exhausted. And there's actually a bit of footage. I tried filming a bit of behind the scenes footage. So I had a tripod, but it's hard to film yourself, especially when you're in a mood. And I was really annoyed that night because I'd run out of water, and because I didn't finish the marathon until 9 o'clock at night, all the shops had closed. So I literally had probably half a litre of water for my protein shake. And I normally had a pint of hydration first, then a protein shake. So I was in this big raging mood that I'd not got the supplies in. I was really annoyed with myself. So when he reached out, it was just amazing, because I had my first hot shower in 8 days, which is massive. So I probably had this half an hour long shower. His wife Nevenka cooked this amazing food, and that'll always just be a great moment of the entire trip, because they really made me feel welcome, and they'd restocked toilet rolls and water and food, because I'd not had time to go shopping. So that was really nice as well. And then after Slovenia, Croatia, Bosnia, I met my friend Steve in Montenegro, and he flew out, and that's when I had a driver. So from day 10 is when I had a driver for the first time.
That was originally planned, wasn't it?
I was meant to have a driver from day one, and that had just been a total different story, but
Okay. We touched on those. Let's pick the mood up a little bit. You just said obviously that was a big win, meeting that guy in Slovenia and been put up for the night, been fed, had a shower. Let's talk about highs. What's some highlights from the whole challenge?
Just getting to see so many beautiful countries, and there was so many points. Monaco, for instance, as I was running the last couple of miles of my marathon, a super yacht had pulled in.
Okay.
And the crew was looking at me because I had a belt on and a headband, and they could tell I was up to something. And I told them I was just about to finish my marathon, and I'm running 30 marathons. And the manager on board was like, "Oh, we'll get you on. The owner loves charity, and he'll love what you're doing." And I was this close. I was so close to getting on a super yacht and having like a celebration, like a meal and drinks with all this crew. And the owner of the ship was in a meeting, and they couldn't get in touch with him. So they took my number, said, "Oh, we'll call you as soon as he's out of this meeting." But then obviously I'm driving alone at that point. And I had to drive on. So I said, "Look, I've got to get off to the next country. But thanks anyway." But that'd have been so close to being on a super yacht.
That could have tipped that 30 grand to 60 grand. Like that.
Yeah, exactly. So there was little moments like that. I mean, getting stopped in the street, people donating because I had a shirt on saying 30 marathons, 30 days, 30 different countries. We're doing this for M&D. So meeting so many different people, amazing people along the way, particularly Germany. A family friend has a relative in Germany, so they messaged me on Instagram and was like, "Oh, we've got my friend's nephew. He wanted to run a marathon with me in Munich."
Okay.
So at first I was a bit like, it's a bit tough trying to arrange things. Like I said, driving to each. Sometimes traffic comes up. You don't want to say, "I'm going to meet you at a set time," and then not be there. Be there. Anyways, it turned out to be amazing. Jasper ran with me, took me around all the sites of Munich, and then we went back to his and had the most amazing food, and there's stuff like that. The community and the support that I got along the way, they were the real highs.
I can imagine. Especially, I think those highs have been that little bit sweeter given the setbacks that you'd had to start with. To then have that mindset of, I've got to do this alone, to then have that unexpected support along the way. That had just topped off that little bit more, made it that little bit more meaningful.
Really, it really made it special to be able to share it with a few people along the way as well. And then, because a lot of people don't see the times where I'm just running at, say, 8, 9 o'clock at night. I'm chipping away at this task and the challenge, but no one's actually there with me. No one's there seeing this. No one's clapping me on.
Yeah, well, as much as you say no one's seeing that, no one saw a lot of it.
Yeah.
There's very little of it that we did actually see.
3 minutes a day,
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's not a lot, is it?
No.
3 minutes a day over 30 days. It's not...
It's just a snippet of each one.
It's a snapshot in the grand scheme of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we don't really know what went into it. And obviously that's why we're chatting now.
Yeah.
Get a bit more of an insight into it. So along with Effective, you had 2 other supporters, or sponsors within this challenge. If I remember rightly, I can't remember how far into the challenge it was, but they put you up in a hotel for a night.
Yes.
How far in was that? Remind me.
That was in Romania, so that had been 2 weeks in.
Yeah, I want to say it was around the halfway point.
Yeah, 2 weeks in. And that
how
they put me up in a spa hotel, so we had a sauna, jacuzzi. It was just, that was the best.
Yeah.
Especially living in a van for so long, cold showers, just to have that spa experience, and also just to relax and chill, and also and have a nice meal.
Definitely.
It was hard to start the marathon the next day though, because you're so pampered.
Yeah.
Don't
want to get out of bed.
But even just small things like recovery, I took out a massage gun, the electric massage guns, and I thought, I'll do a stretching routine, I'll have a massage gun, I'll do that. After day 3, my legs were that tender, I couldn't bear to have the massage gun on me. So I was getting no benefits from massages or anything. So I think I went a couple more days after that spa treatment, and then the spa hotel, and then I had to book in a massage.
Yeah.
Because my legs were just so stiff, I just needed to get massage. So I ended up booking a massage in Vienna, and that was the first massage of the trip, which is crazy to think. Because if you look at any sort of endurance challenge, any famous celebrities done something crazy, they generally have a physiotherapist on board, and they're getting daily massages.
Yeah.
So that was a real bonus to get that massage done. But not being able to get massaged every day was really tough, I think. So next time,
a privilege that you weren't able to have, unfortunately.
Any physiotherapist listening, please get in touch.
Support the man. He needs it.
Yeah.
So obviously we know the main driving force and motivation for this was Craig and MND.
Yeah.
Did you take any other inspiration from anybody else, be it somebody else in a similar situation to Craig, or just thinking of the wider scope of people that are suffering with MND and the fact that it has no cure? Or was there anybody that you would take direct influence from a similar aspect to yours of the challenge side of things? Is there another athlete, another runner, another competitor of any sorts that you've kind of thought, right, he does this, I can do this?
Yeah, I think MND is like the main driving force for me. Obviously, I lost my friend Carl to MND, and Craig fighting it now. That was always there in my mind. That's what pushed me through the tough parts. Being inspired by other athletes, definitely any sort of endurance athlete. You look at Ross Edgley, what he's done, swimming around Great Britain. Recently, Russ Cook running Africa. These are all guys who I enjoy watching what they're doing. Anyone doing taking on huge tasks like that really inspires me, and that's what I enjoy watching. Anything in my spare time, I'd like it to be inspiring There was a guy who did an Ironman in Alaska project. Is it Project Iceman or something? I don't know if you saw that.
No.
So that was, the athletes, Ross Esley, Russ Cook. I'd take inspiration from people like that. Anyone pushing the limits, really, for me, it's inspiring.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Whilst we're talking about Ross and his swim around the UK, did you see the damage that his body took from it, like the saltwater damage, like his skin, his tongue, like the fact that the tongue peeled and everything. That's crazy. Did you encounter anything similar, like any direct side effect from running, like anything like that?
I can't compare it to that because that's a bit more extreme. Is that saltwater exposure and the jellyfish stings. But on the very first day, I took on some new running shoes, which is the biggest no-no ever. They weren't new, sorry. Basically, I had some newish running shoes, which I'd only ran 5 or 6 miles in at a time.
Yeah.
I thought the first marathon's a good one to get them in. I got blisters on every single toe on the first marathon. And this felt like someone was slicing under my toes with a knife. It was so painful. And then for the rest of the week, I was fighting blisters as well as fatigue and the pain of running marathons.
Well, I imagine you'd have fought them for the next 30 days straight.
Oh, yeah.
They've got no chance to recover. Every day
healing.
they're wanting to recover. You're just breaking them back down.
Yeah, I think about day 20 something, they'd gone down and the fluid had all
drained.
Yeah, drained. So there was no pressure then.
So 3/4 of the way through, you were blister free.
Blister free. The only positive thing of that is the pain was so intense. I thought it was something I literally thought my toes were cut. Yeah. But when I look and just see blisters, it's kind of easy to turn your mindset to it's really painful, but it's only a blister.
Yeah.
It's not a long-lasting injury. It's kind of the niggles in the knees and ankles you get where your mind plays tricks on you, and it's like, well, this could be long term. Yeah, you keep running now. What damage are you doing? Yeah. And that's a scary part of it, and that's the mental battle you have, because your mind's saying, well, this could be your running career over if you continue. Is this challenge worth it? And you've got to fight them thoughts.
Yeah, I know for myself. Earlier last year, I had just come back from hernia surgery. Going back into training, obviously trying to be a men's physique competitor, I need a good abdominal section. So training abs is a staple. It's a non-negotiable. The paranoia I have on a regular basis training abs that I'm gonna resplit it or whatever and have this hernia come back. It's unreal.
It's then a mental battle, right?
That mental battle of kind of overcoming the doubt and the paranoia and the fear of it to do what you're trying to do. But then, you've always got that thought in the back of your head of like, am I doing damage that I don't know I'm doing?
Yeah.
Because I didn't even know I'd done the damage when I got the hernia originally. So if I was able to get it without noticing, am I doing it again?
Yeah, exactly.
So definitely, like when you've got a noticeable niggle in your knee or your ankle or whatever, you think,
is
this permanent? Is this?
It's a real
head?
Battle. It's a man.
Is it just generally just my knee aching because I've just run so long?
That's
and so many days back to back.
Yeah. So all these questions keep coming up. You just got to push them to a side and
I guess on. As well, not having anyone to talk it through with and reassure you.
Yeah, that's another one.
Even harder. Yeah. It's like you've not got anyone to talk along the way with and be like, oh, my knee's really not feeling good.
Yeah.
You've not got that voice of reason going, well, yeah, mate, you're running 30 marathons.
Yeah,
I'm not going to feel
right.
good.
Yeah.
Is it an ache? Is it a pain? Is it sharp? Is it not? To kind of try and analyse it with you, because we're our own worst enemies, aren't we? When we have that moment of doubt, it spirals. So not having that reinforcement or second opinion, that can't have been easy.
No, it was always tough, and not just for like the injuries as well. It's just in general having someone there to talk things through with. It was tough as well, making your own decisions, but there were so many tough times along the way. It was kind of just get on with it.
Yeah.
You know, that's how it become a thing. I say it was like going to work on a Monday. You really don't want to go, but that's what you're doing. You're going to work, and that's how it was every day. You're going to work, and whatever comes across, you're going to get through. And
deal with what you can.
Yeah.
And
as long
don't worry about what you can't.
As long as I can walk and run, as long as the legs had worked, I'd be there. At one point, I'm not lying, I was looking online at knee pads and elbow pads because my feet were that much in pain. I thought one day soon I might get injured.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, well, what's plan B if I get injured? And I was thinking, I'll army crawl. And looking back now, I was online looking for knee and elbow pads. Looking back now, I'm thinking, what was going through my mind? Like, how would I have army crawled a marathon in time to finish, get in my van, drive 6 hours?
You were already struggling to do what you were doing, running it.
But yeah, that's where my head was at. There was nothing going to stop me.
You're contemplating crawling.
I was going to crawl
26 miles a day.
Yeah, which I don't know if maybe I just lost my mind at that point, or I was just that focused on finishing the challenge.
I'm not sure I can answer that one.
Yeah, I really don't know.
I'm not sure I can answer that one. No. Okay, that's taken me by surprise a little bit. I'm not gonna lie though. Crawling a marathon.
Yeah, maybe that's my next challenge. See what I can do time wise. Yeah.
Okay. Lessons. What have you learned from this? What are you taking away from this challenge? Life lessons, ability, anything like that?
Yeah, definitely along the way, life lessons. I mean, you get stuff like no one actually owes you anything in this world. No one owes you anything. You just got to take things as they come, and not relying on people. I mean, it's really nice to have friends and really nice to have a support team, but you can't rely on them for everything.
No.
You've got to be responsible and take things on yourself and just get on with it. If things don't work out, don't really don't take it personally if someone drops out on you or whatever. You know, it's people are going through their own things and you never really know. So yeah, that's a bit of a life lesson. I mean, not massive, but the biggest one for me is pushing through the doubt. Every single person I spoke to said this was crazy, which maybe it was crazy, but I don't think there was more than 2 people out of everyone I knew who thought I could do it. So pushing through the doubt is been a huge thing for me, because everyone said I couldn't do this. People said this would be impossible, and I've managed to do it. And I think the human body's a lot more capable than anyone expects it to be.
Yeah.
So
mind over matter, really.
Exactly. Yeah. So pushing your goals, push beyond whatever you think your expectation is, because the human body will overcome and adapt, and you'll get there. You know, I think it's a life lesson, not just in sports, but also other aspects of life, maybe your career or something like that. There's goals that you can achieve and you will achieve if you put your mind to it.
Definitely, I'd say there's something there that everyone can take away from.
Yeah.
I think no matter what avenue or area someone's in that is successful, they'll all preach that same thing. It's you put your mind to it, you'll achieve it.
Yeah.
And like I say, it doesn't have to be fitness. It could be any aspect. You look at the likes of actors, and they'll be the same. Some of them don't make it until like their late 40s and 50s. You get that one role, and then that's it. Yeah. And it's all about that mindset of keep going.
And that goes back to taking opportunities.
Yeah.
Like when you asked me, would I do it again? 100%, because it's the opportunities there, and that's the same at anything in life. Is take that opportunity now, because you don't know if you'll get another one.
Yeah.
So make the most of everything that comes your way.
Yeah. Okay. So leading off that, going back, you would do it again.
Yeah.
What would you do differently, if anything?
Well, if I could control having a support team,
Yeah.
and everyone staying with me, 100%, I'd have a support team, not just a support team in my van. I'd have an extra van.
Yep.
I think it was critical. I was very fortunate that we didn't have a puncture. We didn't have any van issues, mechanicals. If we'd have had a mechanical, wow. Game over. That's the thing with this challenge. Any problem along the way could have been the challenge over.
Right off.
Yeah. Just one small problem with a van. It could have been over. I mean, we had problems getting in countries I've not mentioned. Montenegro, I was stuck there for probably a couple of hours.
Right.
They would not let me in, but they didn't speak English. They just refused me.
Okay.
So they sent me over to this little car park area and said, wait there, you're not allowed in the country. But I had no phone reception because we're in the mountains and no one spoke English. So I was basically at the border begging for people to lend me the phone so I could get online and translate what they were talking about, which was just another... And if I was there any longer, maybe I wouldn't have got to the next marathon in time.
Yeah.
But I was lucky. The guards actually changed. So,
Okay.
So the borders changed duties. And the next set of guards who came, I basically just sweet talked. And luckily for me, a newspaper article had come up. So my mum had sent me this picture of me in a newspaper. So I showed the guy. I said, look, I'm doing a charity challenge. This is me. I need to get on to the next country. I need to be doing a marathon now, and then I've got to move on. And they just felt sorry for me and was like, go. But what I didn't realise is there was actually, after these car documents, you need paperwork for your car documents.
Okay.
Which was all on my phone, and it's never been a problem travelling through the rest of Europe. But as soon as I got to Montenegro, it became a problem. And then Romania, they would not let me in at all. And they just refused the entrance. And I actually was sat there trying to persuade them, and they said, if you stay there any longer, we're going to arrest you. Leave now.
Wow.
So then that was another plan B, going to the drawing board. I called my brother again. Gaz, a great job. He was there. Stay calm. You'll go to this border. Try and get in Hungary. We'll go and do Hungary. We'll do the marathon there. We'll try and get you someone flown out and bring the paperwork. So we had to go to Hungary. And then we didn't get in the border at first.
Right.
And that stemmed from the fact is, when we went through Serbia, the Serbia border said, we're not letting you through because you've not got the paperwork for your van. And we don't mind, but Romania won't let me in. I said, look, I've been everywhere in Europe. It's going to be totally fine. I'll get in. I'm doing this charity challenge. Just let me by. Arguing for about 10, 15 minutes. And they just went, go on then, can go. Got to the Romanian border, they sent me back. So now I've got a leave stamp in my exit stamp from Serbia.
Yep.
Get to Romania and they refuse to stamp me in. So then
Right.
I'm turned back, tail between my legs, to these Serbians. They're going, we told you you wouldn't get in. What have we said? Now you have no stamp and you've got an exit, and now you've got to get an entrance back. So that's a red flag on your passport.
Oh,
So
right.
when I get to Hungary, it's like, what you've been up to.
Yeah.
You've been refused entry. What for? What's happening? So we got refused entry in Hungary, and then my brother was like, look, we've just got to try somewhere else. So there's another border further up the road, try there, and then we got in.
Right.
Yeah, that was the best feeling ever, getting in, because again, if we didn't get in Hungary, that was it. Challenge was over.
Yeah.
We had no real other places to go. Once we got to Hungary, I did a marathon in Budapest, and luckily for me, I flew a good friend of mine, Matty, out, and Matty brought the appropriate paperwork for the van.
Right.
We went back to Romania the next day and did the Romania marathon. So then everything had been juggled around, but we managed to keep it running smoothly, or as smoothly as possible.
That's
Yeah.
definitely a logistical nightmare.
Yeah.
And then to overcome it as well, whilst you're still doing everything, that's nuts.
Yeah. But it was, again, everyone coming together. Like Matthew flew out. Gaz was behind the scenes. He was helping out, constantly stressed, bless him. He's at home, wife and kids, and a full-time job. yeah, he's got this problem. His younger brother's somewhere in Europe with a problem, and he's constantly at the
Stuck
end
and
of the
can't
phone.
get in the
So
country.
I owe a lot to Gaz
Yeah.
for staying cool with everything. And he actually said once I finished the challenge, I'm taking your passport and your car keys off you.
You're not going anywhere.
You're not going anywhere. So yeah.
So you'd have the support team. That'd be what you do differently. Anything else? Would there be like a different approach to it?
I think I'd have researched what I need, what paperwork exactly for my van, and researched the countries a little bit more. Maybe just add a few things more planned out, like where am I parking each day. We did like my brother did a great job of trying to find places along the way, but it was a constant stress for him daily. So if I'd have had that all in place, it'd have been a lot more smooth. But yeah, a couple. I'd definitely have someone who was just there to give me supplements, water, hydration along the marathons, and then feed me at the end, because that'd have been huge. If I could have had my legs up after a marathon and be fed, it'd have been a total different. My legs would have been in different condition. But after a marathon and having to sit and drive 5 hours, all the blood's in my bottom of my feet. My ankles were swollen so much. In fact, I actually wore the same running shoes for 26 marathons because I bought these extra wide fit running shoes. So the running shoes I used on the first day give me blisters, so they were scrap.
Yep.
My other spare pair were the same size as them and as narrow as them, so they were scrap. And then the only ones I had were these extra wide ones. So then I think when Matthew come out, he brought some new running shoes as well, and they were just wide fit, but not extra wide fit. My feet were that swollen.
Won't go in on.
Even the wide fit shoes, they would not fit. Well, I mean, they would fit, but they were rubbing so much. It was that painful. I just went back to my original shoes. I did, probably 26 marathons in the same pair of shoes. So having more running shoes in place and just being able to have my feet up, it would have been a huge difference.
So mainly preparation.
Preparation, yeah. And like maybe I was a bit naive with it all and just announcing the challenge and wanting to get off and do it. Maybe there was a lot more work to have done, but
a little too keen.
Yeah. Well, again, opportunity, but planning and preparation would have been, a lot more organised if it had done it again.
Yeah. So is Gaz maybe right about jumping into it a
don't
bit too
say
soon?
that. I'd have to admit that he's definitely right a lot of the time.
I'm sure he'll love to hear that.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So, not that I can imagine anyone would jump into the same situation as yourself and think, do you know what? I'm going to run 30 marathons in 30 days. But if you were to give some advice for someone looking to get into running, long distance running specifically, what would you tell them? What would be your best advice for someone that's looking to get into long distance running?
On making improvements from what I did, or just in general?
It's going just in general, and then
just
we
in
can go on improvements on what you did.
Yeah, so if for someone just wanting to get into long distance running from a start point, I'd just say time on your feet, get running first and foremost. Don't think too much into it, but then as you progress, you want to start incorporating different types of running, not just your long running tempo. There's all sorts of different plans out there, but the main thing is just get on your feet, time on your feet, and get running. But obviously don't increment too fast. So basically, probably the rule is no more than 10%.
Okay.
Every week, don't increase your training volume by 10% more than that. So don't do too much too soon. Injuries, you do not want to get an injury because that's just going to set you back. So just trying to build yourself up slowly is something I'd recommend. Whatever your ability is now, just try and improve it 10% every week, and then eventually try and get the longer and longer distance runs in your training. up to 15, 16 miles if you can.
Yeah.
And then, if your target's a marathon, up your training volume to maybe 30 miles a week. I mean, some pro runners and a lot more experienced runners will tell you to do more than that. My 2 weeks of specific training for this was 50 miles a week. And that was a lot for me. So on my second week of training 50 miles a week, I could really feel it. I felt a lot slower. I felt tired, and my legs weren't responding that great. So, but I'd probably jumped into that a bit soon. Like I say, you shouldn't really push. You shouldn't increase your training volume more than 10%, which I did, obviously, for the challenge. The reason of the challenge, I needed to try and cram as much training in as possible, but I was pushing it, and I was on the borderline of injury all the time. Another thing that a lot of long distance runners miss out is strength training, and I generally believe that's why I managed to do the challenge, is from my strength background. More strength training than even running I'd probably done. I wouldn't recommend that for this challenge, but strength training is key to staying injury free.
Yeah,
without a doubt. Lots of, pistol squats, single leg squats, lunges. Just do a lot of strength work on your legs, alongside if you're running.
Yeah,
and that you won't get. You won't get injured, but you'll prevent a lot. Yeah, you reduce the injury risk. Yeah.
So, three movements you've said there are all quad and arguably glute focused. Would you say quads and glutes are the main ones, or hamstrings, calves?
So I never
still
really
need to be kind of in there. Obviously, calves take an absolute battering with running.
Yeah, really strangely, I don't train calves.
Right.
So I don't isolate any muscle group in legs.
Yeah.
Really. All my routine will be plyometrics. So I'll be doing box jumps.
Yeah.
The favourite is mine. I do a single leg box jump into a pistol squat and then back down. And they're quite advanced moves, I know, but you can build up to it with just box jumps and then practice single leg squats holding the side of a squat rack or something. But you can build up to that.
Build up through aggression.
Yeah. I think lunges are number one leg exercise for all round. They hit my glutes, hamstrings and quads, I'd say. I've never really isolated. And for calves, I'm into barefoot running.
Okay.
So if you look on my Strava, all my training runs are barefoot running. Saying barefoot, I have barefoot, them ugly 5-finger, horrible. Like everyone's like, "Ew, what are they?" But they serve a purpose. Yeah. And I'm a big advocate of barefoot running. It's one of them topics which is a bit Marmite, but I think if you look at the size of compared to most of my legs, my calves are quite big. I know they'll probably say it's genetics, but my calves are built up through barefoot running and the strength just in that. I do a lot of beach running barefoot, totally barefoot, and the strength I believe you get from that is second to none. So,
I think the whole calf and genetics is absolute nonsense.
Yeah, that's what you get told, isn't it? If someone's jealous.
I think people that voice that opinion are people with small calves.
Yeah, maybe.
I've got small calves, so I've got no shame in saying that I've got small calves, and I don't blame it on genetics at all.
Yeah,
I think the only element of genetics that comes into the conversation is the physical appearance of the calf when it's trained. So you're not going to be able to change the length of the muscle belly.
Muscle attachment, isn't it?
Yeah. So you might be long tendon or short tendon, which is going to change the size of that muscle in its length.
Yeah.
But from a genetic standpoint, you've still got the capability of growing that muscle.
Yeah, of course you have. Yeah.
From a volume standpoint, and then the only other aspect would be your ability to respond to stimulus. So yes, some of us are less gifted than others from an ability to grow in a shorter time frame, but the whole argument of calves are genetic. It's like, okay, so you're telling me that you've got a really well developed chest, but it's genetics that you haven't got good calves. How many times a week do you train chest? How many sets per week do you train chest? how many sets a week do you do your calves?
Yeah.
I think it's just
When you look at it like that,
it's neglect.
100%. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
You want to train you want a bigger muscle anywhere on your body, you train it more.
Yeah,
you pay more attention to it, and they're just ignored.
Yeah.
So I think that's absolute nonsense.
Yeah. Well, I'll put that down
genetics do not come into it.
Yeah. Well, I think that's you bodybuilders start barefoot running then, because that's built my calves up. But yeah, barefoot running, I'm a big believer of, and I think it's also helped with the injury prevention. Yeah. When I've put normal running shoes on with the cushioning, because obviously for the 30 marathons, I decided I was in the unknown. I'd never run a back-to-back marathon, so there was no way I was going to risk running barefoot. No. Because it does take a lot more out your calves, Achilles, and everything. Just through the way. Yeah. So that's
whilst you were just telling me then about your training, so you were looking to expand your weekly accumulated distance to around 50 miles in preparation for running a single marathon. That would be you would look to increase your volume to around 30 miles a week to then go into running a 26.2 mile marathon. You were doing 50 to then go on to run 183.4 miles in a week.
Yeah.
Massively undergunned.
Yeah, totally. And that's if you was to ask me what I recommend for someone who'd take on this challenge, would be a proper training plan. Because that was done. Yeah, but I mean, there's the opportunities to do stuff like this, and I'd recommend a 6-month training plan.
Yeah, minimum.
If you look at, I think that Spencer Matthews ran 30 marathons in the desert, something along the lines of that. He had a 6-month training plan, and he managed to build his volume up weekly, constantly over a 6-month period to where he'd be peaking at high amounts of volume. Your body gets used to it over that time and knows what's coming. But yeah, I think getting a proper training plan in. But that's the thing with these challenges. That's why these challenges I'm doing are a challenge. I like the challenges to be an actual challenge. Not saying that anyone doing, like, say, a marathon with a 12-week training plan, if they're doing that as a challenge, it's still a challenge, yeah. But for me to announce a challenge and then say, right, yeah, I'm doing it next month.
You want the odds.
I want everything stacked against me. I want people to doubt it. I want people to say, well, that's stupid. Yeah. You can't do that. I want this challenge on my body. And every challenge so far has kind of been like that. I'm not saying it will be in the future. As I expand and maybe do something even more extreme in the future, I'd like to be more prepared and more trained for these specific tasks.
So aside from, like, going off the back of saying that you want that challenge on your body, aside from having the motivation, being MND, Craig and Carl, do you think, despite that, like, if that wasn't the case and that wasn't why you were kind of doing this, do you think you would still pursue this avenue of challenges because it's something that you as a person crave? Do you kind of want to overcome what's not expected to be doable?
Through the challenges, I've learnt that.
Right.
I've maybe grown a little addiction to it, maybe. But that's only through the challenges.
Okay.
So my first challenge last year, skiing off that mountain and then putting my skis on my back, boots around my neck, and running back up. That was something so out of my comfort zone. I was like, well, what am I actually... If you saw the cars driving down this mountain, bibbing the horns and, like, stopping to see if I needed a lift because they just wondered what I was doing, if I was stranded somewhere. As soon as I'd done that, I kind of got, like, a bit of a buzz. Like, this is... When you go into them dark places, I guess, like a lot of ultra runners and a lot of marathon runners, a lot of other sports, you can't get that place.
Yeah.
And once you get to it, you kind of... I don't know if... I wouldn't say crave, but there's a whole challenge in overcoming it.
Do you think it's almost a curiosity?
Yeah.
Of that mindset sets in of, what can I do?
Yeah. Well, 100%. What can the human body do? What can I physically do? put everything against me, stack everything against me, how will he adapt and how will he overcome it? 100% drives me to want to achieve more. And maybe now, maybe I've got this buzz for it around the charity side of it. But that is definitely the driving force for me, is Carl and Craig, and just trying to raise for M&D, raise as much awareness as possible. But I would certainly say these challenges have created a bit of a buzz for
a drive for
it. Yeah, definitely.
I think for a lot of people it'd be hard to understand that.
Yeah.
Of why would you put yourself through that?
Yeah.
And people that do things like this, like swimming around the UK, like Ross, running the length of Africa, what possesses people to do it? Like,
there's definitely like a natural high. You're getting natural highs from being in such a low place, and then when you come out of them, you've got these endorphins. There are highs that I got along them runs, which I could not describe to. People would think I'd been taking drugs.
Yeah, that level of elation.
I'm not. Yeah, without honestly, for instance, I was in, I think, Monaco, so 4 marathons in, that was it, and I was totally toast. I was done, and I was 20 miles in, and my legs were seizing up, and they would just stop working. And I remember, like, I don't know if anyone believes in God, or I just remember putting my arms out, and I was just like, please, just give me some energy. I need to get through this. Please help me. I'm not lying. I got this sudden rush and goosebumps, and this energy hit me, and I just got this crazy high. And like, to say that, people are going to be like, what is he talking about? But 20 miles in, feeling sluggish, I could hardly move, and I got this sudden buzz, and I was just in this mood, and I just went for it. And for the rest of the 6 miles, I was just focused and driven, and it was such a crazy feeling. And I think doing these sort of endurance events, you can get these highs, which you can't get from any other sort of sport. I think when I did a first marathon in 2019, and that's the first ever time I'd suffered that type of pain, just not only physically but mentally as well. I'd actually set off with a friend who'd ran 3 marathons, and he was keeping his time and apparently pacing me, but he'd been lying and pacing me an hour, a minute a mile faster,
right? Okay.
To suit his target time. So after half a marathon, he turned around and said, "High five, fist pump, whatever. You've just kept up with him for half a marathon." Oh, and I was lying to you. We've been doing this mile of pace. I was like, no way, that's amazing. Carry on running. 3 miles later, my legs just go, nope, that's it, you're done. So I could not physically run any faster, and I almost stopped to a walking pace. And the pain I got, cramps, everything seizing up, locking up, every pain and muscle. And ever since that point, I've realised there's that dark zone in the marathon that you can't get from a half marathon or whatever. It's just and now I welcome it. Now, when I did London Marathon after a bit of training prep, I was 16, 17 miles in, and then at 18 miles, you start getting a few little tweaks here and there, and then I'm just like, bring it on. I know what's coming. Yeah. There's this dark zone, this pain, and it's a mental fight then. Can you keep this pace up and get to the finish line through that pain?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I go back to the whole topic of religion. I'm not a really religious person myself, but whether it was or wasn't a religious experience, I think even people that aren't religious could take something from it of it's more positive manifestation. Like, you're kind of there almost praying for this boost of energy.
Yeah.
And whether it's come from God or not, it's been, you've found it.
Yeah.
And I think the argument there could be that it perhaps isn't from God. I'm not saying it is or isn't.
Yeah.
It's something that you've found within yourself, and your brain's gone, you can do this.
Yeah.
You want this energy, here it is, get it done.
Yeah.
And it just comes back to that whole mindset and mind over matter.
Yeah, and you've maybe got that energy already there.
Yeah.
But you're just not utilising it right there and then until that spark.
Yeah. You're just kind of waiting for that mental barrier to break down to get at it, to then keep going.
Yeah. So when you're in a hole, you think there's nothing else you can do. There's probably plenty more in the tank, and you can eventually get on.
I think our head is the biggest obstacle in any challenge, marathon or not, whatever it is, in any walk of life. It's that self-doubt or that belief that carries you or doesn't carry you.
Can also put barriers up that aren't even there.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we started that on what advice would you give? Believe it or not.
Right now.
Spiral. Okay. I would say then we're pretty much ready to wrap this up. Unless before I do, there's anything that you want to tell me about that I've not touched on?
Not really. I mean, no one wants to know like the details of going to toilet and stuff like that, do they, in the van life? But no,
I'm pretty sure our imagination can tell us enough about that.
But yeah,
how glamorous it was.
I think everyone can imagine that living out of a van wasn't the easiest, and even once I had to drive, it wasn't the best. We actually got pulled over by the German police.
All right.
Oh, the absolute nightmare. So obviously it's not recommended to be laid in the back of your van, but my legs are in that much pain, I just needed to lay down. And laid down. And next thing, Steve's shouting, "Undercover police is pulling me over. These lights have come on saying pull over." And I was like, no way, like literally the worst nightmare. So I'm panicking because I thought if we get arrested, the challenge is over.
Yeah.
So we follow this car and it pulls us in. Turns out it's the federal police. Once you cross the borders in Europe, they often follow you and check your passports, and then it's more of a customs check. Yeah. So he was asking any passengers, and he just played cool and was like, "Yeah, Mike's in the back," because he thought, well, they're going to search us anyway. Yeah. And I kind of like, as soon as he opens the door, I jump out so he can't see that I'm not sat down in a seat with a seatbelt and everything. And then he just sees the bed and was like, "What are you doing? You cannot be laid in a bed while your friend's driving the car." And he said, "This carries a massive fine. So many euros, a really extreme fine." And then they got talking to us to start searching the van. And then they see the bottle, the toilet. It's like they just start going through the van. And I'm like, oh, by this time it's really messy. I'm so embarrassed. And then he sees the poster. We had a poster at the front saying 30 marathons, 30 days, 30. And he goes, "Oh, I do some running." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm running 30 marathons in 30 days. What?" And he couldn't believe it. And he was like, "No." And then I got him on my side, and he was just like, "Yep. Next time, please ride in the front of the van. No problem. We're not going to find you. Get yourself off, and good luck for you." So yeah, that experience was like literally thinking this challenge was over. We might get arrested here, and yeah, it worked out in the end. But yeah, there was little bits like that all along the 30 days where the ups and downs were like, that was a close call.
Yeah. Wow. I can imagine that they can be extremely strict on situations like that. Yeah. As you would expect, really.
Yeah, I mean, it's not recommended that.
You expect to encounter it on the roads in the UK, wouldn't you?
Oh, 100%.
If you were pulled over and it's like,
yeah, what are you doing?
Why are you laid down on the bed? Like,
yeah, what are you actually doing?
You need to be sat in a seat with a seatbelt on.
Yeah.
Do you feel any form of almost imposter syndrome to an extent that you've got it too good? I need to put myself in a situation where I've got some struggles.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I think it's a case of do it for the people that can't.
Yeah.
You know, there's people suffering. There's people in a position where they can't do this. If you're healthy, fit and healthy, and you're in a position to be able to do it, go out and do it. I think far too many people waste their lives putting themselves in misery, just eating bad diets and not exercising, and they almost become disabled through self-destruction.
Yeah.
And it's kind of such a waste when you feel there's so many people on the planet that would love to be in their position, and they kind of maybe seem to be wasting it. So I would definitely say I'd do it for the people that can't do it. Go and experience, go and push your body to the extreme. If you've got 2 working legs, go and what can you do on them?
Push it.
Yeah, exactly.
On the topic of pushing it, what's the next push?
The next push. We've got another challenge coming up.
Of course.
So the next challenge will be in the next couple of weeks. A bike ride to the French Alps. We'll be biking to the French Alps from Hull.
Right.
The highest ski resort in Europe, 915 miles. And unfortunately for me, I put an Instagram vote on what type of bike should I bike to the French Alps on, and the Rally Chopper has come top. So
that's known for its abilities for
it's
comfort and speed.
Literally not a bike designed for endurance. I mean, it's certainly a head turner, so I just received it. I was fortunate enough to win a competition. I don't know if my challenge sort of pushed the decision of the competition, the influence of that decision. But I was fortunate enough to get a Rally Chopper, just like Paddy McGuinness did for his Children in Need rides. So now I'm an owner of a Rally Chopper, and it's also a one-off. If you've seen Stranger Things, I've not actually seen that on Netflix yet. But
season 2.
Yeah,
what season will it be?
I'm not.
It's the final season.
So this is sprayed up in Stranger Things custom design. Right. So really, really happy, over the moon with this bike. But I've since had a test ride, and it's fair to say it's not designed for long distance bike rides. 3 gears.
It has gears.
Yeah, it's 3 gears.
I think Choppers had gears.
Yeah, but it's like on a drum gear, so it's almost like a fixie. It's got 1 cog at the back, but it's on like a drum, so you can change into 3 gears, but the difference from gear 1 to 3 is minimal. If you're up a hill, gear 1's where you want to be, but there's not much in it. And then flat out, gear 3 is not giving you too much more than gear 1 will. So obviously it's not a race bike.
It's not far from being a BMX.
Yeah, it's not designed for these sort of things. But yeah, basically, Paddy McGuinness did that for Children in Need, and I just jokingly put it on an option that I'll do it on. I didn't actually think that it'd be a thing. My dad said, you can't copy someone else's challenge. He's already done that. I said, I haven't done it. I let people vote. I thought I'd let people engage. So the following grew a bit after the 30 marathons, 30 days, 30 different countries. I wanted to engage the people that had supported me and sent me lovely messages, because a lot of them people got me through the last challenge. I got so many messages off strangers, keep going. It was really motivating. So I thought, engage with the audience and let them choose. And then they've decided to Rally Chopper. So that's the next one. And I think it's going to be way harder than expected. Once I put the vote up, I thought, Rally Chopper, it can't be that bad. I think Paddy McGuinness did 300 miles.
So tripling that.
Yeah, and it's in February, and it's sub-zero temperatures, so I'm dealing with the ice, and I don't know why I couldn't do this in the summer, but like always, I announced the challenge, and I need to get it done. Yeah. So that's going to be the next one.
Do you find you've always been had that impatience almost?
Maybe,
it must be impatience. It's like I'm like it. I get an idea in my head. I'm like, I've got to do it now.
Yeah, I don't. What's the time wasted in between? I mean, we can train and prepare, but I just want to get on the bike and make a funny story of it. I'm going to try and film it like the last one, and just show people that the actual route from Hull to the French Alps. And we'll be stopping in London, Paris, a few places in between Paris, obviously. But I'll try and get a few nice sights in, turn it into a bit of a sightseeing tour like the 30 marathons did.
Yeah.
And once I get to the French Alps, there's then going to be another challenge a couple of weeks after, which has already been thought up, but I'll let you know first on this podcast. I've not actually announced it yet, so I'm still not announcing it as such. I'm not sure when this is out, but I'll let you be the first to know. It's going to be a crazy triathlon involving a mountain climb, ski off the back of the mountain up to a lake, swim the lake, pick my bike up, bike around the mountains, and then followed by a run. So it's a full triathlon with a mountain twist to it.
Triathlon and more.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, that's going to be the next tough challenge.
And still all whilst trying to raise money for NHS.
Yeah, still. So with on £30,000, I believe we can push to £100,000 this year. But what I've said is, I've had so much support from friends, family, and a lot of the followers. And this year, I don't want to target. Everyone's given so much and been so generous.
Broaden that horizon.
Now broaden it. We hit the big companies and the corporations and try and get the £1 million companies to throw a few £1,000 in, because that's peanuts to a lot of companies. So if we can get them on board, that's going to be a big thing and make such a difference.
Well, I wish you the absolute best. Can't wait to see how it gets on. And word of advice for filming it: if you haven't got one already, get yourself a GoPro.
Right, yeah. The Insta360 camera,
something like that. A little magic arm. We've got two mounted onto that camera there, either side of that tripod.
Right,
get yourself a little magic arm like that.
Yeah.
Mount it to your handlebar. You can film hands-free.
Yeah.
You don't have to be running along.
Yeah, because that's especially on that rally chopper with the handlebars.
Get that mounted on wherever you go. That camera can go here.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome to see more of it.
Yeah,
definitely.
I appreciate that.
Cameraman on that.
We'll get that filmed, and maybe have a support team this time.
Hopefully. And plenty of bits and bobs to take with you to keep you fueled.
Nice, yeah. Thank you very much, and thanks again for supporting the challenges.
Our pleasure. It's the least we can do. Thanks for coming back into the studio today and giving us the insight to that last challenge and a little bit of a nod to what the next one will be.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'll be back.